So back to this dissociation curve, okay? We can get a shift. So we can get a right or a left shift. And so really all we're saying is, did I already talk about this?
You're not going right shift.
Right shift. Okay, so going back to our shift, why that shift happens. Kind of like we said earlier, CO2 is high, that's going to cause us to shift right. If pH is low, which means that CO2 is going to be high, we're going to shift right. Temperature, what does temperature do? I know everybody's kind of different as far as their chemistry background, but what does temperature do to chemical bonds? Easier to break, right? So normally oxygen and hemoglobin are like this. They're still moving, right? Those molecules are still moving. But if we increase the temperature, they're moving faster and they're more likely to break apart. So if we increase the temperature, oxygen is going to be more likely to leave the hemoglobin, which is one reason for fever, right? We increase our temperature, oxygen leaves, gives energy to our tissues, gives energy to our lymphatic tissue cells, and they work better. What's another scenario why that might be good? Increase the temperature. When does our body increase temperature?
When you work out, you increase temperature.
You work out, right? When you're working out, your tissues need more oxygen. Well, temperature makes it easier for that oxygen to leave. So not only because there's higher CO2, but also because there's higher temperature, you're dumping more oxygen into your tissues. It just makes sense.
So what about when we left shift? It's gonna.
So left shift is going to be basically the opposite of those things. If pH goes up or if CO2 goes down, oxygen's not going to leave as easily. If temperature goes down where it's colder, oxygen's not going to leave as easily.
So you said for left shift, pH goes up, and meaning the CO2 is low.
Yeah. So for somebody who's hyperventilating, their CO2 is going down. Their blood, and you know, honestly, I hadn't really considered this angle before, but their blood is going to have plenty of oxygen. But the oxygen, it's still going to leave, but it's not going to want to leave quite as easily. Now, their saturation is going to be so high that's not going to matter. They're going to get oxygen to their tissues. But that oxygen is going to hang on a little bit tighter, which makes sense. Those tissues are getting plenty of oxygen. They don't need more oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to dump off as much. It's going to stay with the hemoglobin. That makes sense?
Yeah, and you said when temperature's down, it's not going to leave. But that doesn't normally temperature dropping induce in shivering, and shivering requires muscle cells to. So with that,
And shivering is going to bring temperature back up.
okay.
And that's another big thing with shivering is it's designed to bring temperature back up.
So this might be a question that may or may not be related. So when you're experiencing or suffering from hypothermia can hypothermia.
Yeah.
That can kill you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that because you technically turn into like a people sickle, or is it because you can't get nutrients to your tissues and to your organs because it wouldn't a lower temperature make it so that oxygen doesn't want to leave, and I'm sure that would make other bonded proteins and different things not want to leave. Is that more what causes people to?
Really, it's both.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, extreme, you're gonna turn into an icicle. But initially, it's gonna be more. Your blood flow is just not gonna be.
Okay.
It's not gonna be going as well. You know, your blood, the colder it gets, it's almost like the thicker it gets, and your everything. I mean, we have to have that. Just like everything else, I mean, homeostasis, our body really has to live within very specific ranges. Mm-hmm. And you get much far out of that at all, and you're in trouble. Which is amazing how our body can keep those temperatures and those pHs in that range. But, like reptiles, for example, they don't have that same homeostasis mechanism for temperature, which is why they go in the ground. They get cold, they basically go into hibernation type stage. So, it's more just because everything starts to really slow down. Eventually, oxygen's not going to be going to the brain as well because it's so cold. And and really, they say, Hypothermia is if you're gonna have to choose a way to die, it's not the worst way, because it takes a while, and at first it's gonna be miserable and frostbite, but after a while your brain everything just slows down, your brain function slows down, and you kind of go into this kind of like almost hypnotic state where once basically if whatever you're ever stranded out in the woods in the wintertime, you start to feel warm for no reason, that's a bad sign. First you're going to be freezing cold, and when you start to feel warm, like, oh, hey, this isn't so bad, you're pretty advanced. And so and then you're just like, man, I just want to go to sleep. I'm just tired. I feel warm and almost cozy, and I just want to go to sleep. And then basically, because your brain is slowly shutting down, you go to sleep and you just never wake up.
Why do you get warm? You just think you're warm?
I don't know. Yeah, you don't actually get warm, but you get the sensation of being warm. And exactly why, I don't know that is, but I don't know why that happens. But because really our treatment for those people is warming them up. That's the big, we're going to give them oxygen, right? The more saturated their oxygen, the easier it's going to get to their tissues in their brain. So we're going to overcome that with oxygen, and we're just going to warm them up. We're going to put heat packs in their armpits and in their groin. We're giving them warm IV fluid, so we warm them from the inside out, and we're going to get them warm. By the way, warm IV fluid feels amazing. There's nothing quite like it. Way better than cold. Even room temperature is, 20 degrees, 30 degrees colder than your body. So it's always cold. But when you put in like even just room temperature or, a degree or so above your body, it feels awesome.
Field trip to the paramedic lab.
Yeah. It's like, whoa. It's like a hot shower on a cold day. It just feels good. So anyway, that's what can cause those type of shifts.
Okay.
And so with that, the bicarbonate thing, that's how hemoglobin likes to, that's how CO2 likes to transport mostly the bicarbonate ions
Mm-hmm.
back to the lungs.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm struggling not going too deep. But he's got the pictures on the slide, so you don't have to go this deep, but we're going to go this deep anyway. Just a little bit beyond what you need to know, but it helps you remember what you do need to know.